Testing, testing. I'm about to start. So, what do you need? Oh, nah, I'm always cold, but the atrium is worse, so. Thank you. test. Hello. Testing. Testing. We will get started in about 6 more minutes. We will begin here in just a few more minutes. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to be taking questions throughout this live stream, but I'll be stopping every so often to check the messages that I might have here. So just hold tight if I don't answer your question as soon as you ask it. Although this live stream is a little bit delayed, so it might take me a few extra seconds to see that you've written something. So just bear with me. And throughout this live stream also, we're going to be alternating between the iPad screen and the PowerPoint presentation. So that's the two different screens you'll be seeing. And then at the end of this presentation, I'm going to be linking or emailing, if you've registered, a link to fill out an evaluation about this training and how you liked it and any other ways that you think we could improve. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. This training is called iPads and Apps, so this is dealing with using assistive technology for children with all abilities. So that includes any developmental disabilities, learning disabilities, even for typical children. They sometimes have some special requirements that they need when using tablet devices such as these. So Northwest Arkansas Community Parent Resource Center, which is who this training is through, is a program of Arkansas Support Network. And our program in particular is funded by the Office of Special Education. My name is Staci Bell. I'm the technology specialist for NWA CPRC, which I'm going to say instead of Northwest Arkansas Community Parent Resource Center. It's a bit of a mouthful. I manage our website, social media, database collection, and I also provide resources on various types of assistive technology to different families that need it. So we're based in Northwest Arkansas, and we cover Washington, Madison, Carroll, and Benton counties. And we help all families. Our age range is birth to 26. However, if it's outside of our scope, we know who to refer you to. So we're always happy to help. So in this training, we're going to cover several topics. First is understanding the iPad. Second is applications you can use. The third topic is accessibility features on the iPad. The fourth is adaptive gear that goes along with the iPad. And lastly, we're going to discuss a couple ways how to help get the iPad written into your child's IEP. So the iPad was first released in the spring of 2010, and it seems like it's been around forever, but it was only just, 7 years ago that it first hit the shelves. And since its creation, the limits of what we thought were possible has been pushed further and further. I don't think this device was made with the thought in mind, hey, this is going to help a lot of kids that need a little extra help, whether it's augmented communication, sensory uses, and just a spectrum of other things. So that's pretty amazing. I'm going to stop here for a second and just see if anybody has questions real quick. No? Alright, let's keep going. So what is the iPad? Well, it's basically a computer. It's very condensed and portable. It's in the iOS family, Apple's operating system for their mobile devices. So that also includes your iPhone, iPod, which is kind of obsolete now, but iTouch, etc. The newest version weighs less than a pound, and the screen is what we call a multi-touch display. The surface of the iPad can recognize up to 10 touches at once, so think of it as being able to register 10 fingers. The iPad surface is Gorilla Glass, and that's pretty strong, but when it does break, the glass itself is contained. Its body is made of aluminum, which makes it quite sturdy. However, the corners are the most susceptible to damage if you were to drop it. So that's something you kind of have to be mindful of, and that's also the reason why you don't usually see people toting around an iPad without a case on it. And then lastly, it has a 10-hour battery, which is much more efficient than, say, like a laptop. Although the laptops nowadays are getting better at battery life, but still. Okay. There's several different models of iPad to choose from, and within each model there's several options depending on how much content you will need it to hold. It's kind of hard to get a scope on that if you're not used to talking in gigabytes or things like that. It's best to evaluate whether you'd like a bigger or smaller screen first, and then once you decide on that, you can choose whether you want the fastest, the best, and the most hard drive space, or if an older model with less hard drive space can fit your needs. You can see how the cost varies here on this graphic, and some even have cellular access plans that you can connect to the internet wherever a phone can connect, along with the built-in Wi-Fi access. So, and also you can easily turn on and off an internet plan, like when you go on a trip, or whenever you're not going to need it, or when you would need it, and versus when you wouldn't. And then if you're looking for a less costly option, places like eBay, Amazon, or Craigslist are good places to purchase a device secondhand as well. You just have to be kind of careful about it and make sure to get it checked out before you actually buy it. And also the cellular internet plans for iPads range from about $5 to $100 a month. And this graphic is being updated continuously because they're always coming out with new versions. So if you want to keep up with the newest versions and prices and whatnot, you can go to apple.com/iPad/compare. So it's down here at the bottom. Sorry, that little thing pops up every time I'm right there. Okay. Onward. Alright, so like I said, if you're not used to knowing how much 16 gigabytes can hold or how much something like 64 can hold, here's kind of a visual to give you an idea of how much these sizes of hard drives would be able to hold. So once you know this information, you can apply it to how you'll use the iPad and decide which option is best for you. If you're going to be saving a lot of video or very complex applications, you'll want a higher capacity because those things take up a lot of space. So if you're using the app like Proloquo to Go, which is an AAC app to help nonverbal students communicate, that's a pretty meaty app because, as you can see here, this kind of gives you, so on a 16 gigabyte iPad, you can fit 3,200 songs, 23 hours of video, 443 Angry Birds, etc. But this is only if you have nothing else on the iPad. So you could fit 55 Proloquo to Go's, but see how little Proloquo to Go's you could fit versus songs? It just depends on how much space that takes up on there. And so if you look at 64 gigabytes, you could fit 220 of them on there. So it's really just customized to you and what would fit your family best. So, alright, now we're going to discuss how to actually use the iPad. So the first thing to know is how to use the tactile buttons to do things like turn on the iPad. So I can't show you this via the screen here on my iPad, so I'm just going to have to describe it to you. But we'll get to that. We'll get to the screen and the apps a little bit later. So to turn it on, you hold down the small button on the top side of the iPad for a couple of seconds, which is a little counterintuitive because you feel like you push it and it should turn on. But if you just hold it down a couple seconds, you'll see that the Apple icon will indicate you're successful. The volume is also a similar button that you can find along the edge. You press one side to make it increase and the other to decrease the volume. The only other tactile button that isn't on the screen of the iPad is called the home button. So that's just the circular button on the face of the iPad at the bottom. And when you press the home button, once it will wake up the iPad, or if it's already on, it'll take you to the main home screen. Excuse me. If you double press the button, it brings up the Quick App Switcher menu. This shows all the apps that are currently open, and you can scroll from side to side with your finger. If you swipe up an app that is already open in this, it will close the app and it will allow your device to run faster. So you always want to remember to close apps after you're done using them so they don't take up any unnecessary bandwidth of your hard drive. Let me pause here for a second, make sure no one's said anything. Alright. Looking good. Alright, so the way you navigate the iPad is through gestures. So the gestures are how you interact with it. The way you interact with it is determined by these different ones here. The main gesture that you'll use the most often is called the tap, and it's exactly like it sounds, just simply touching the iPad and then drawing your hand away. This selects things mostly. Swipe is the next one, and you use the swiping motion to go between things like pictures or apps or anything like that, where there's multiples. Next is pinch, and this is the main gesture to zoom in and out. Next is the double tap, and use this to select things and zoom in on them. And then lastly is the tap and drag, which allows you to move things around the screen. Hopefully you can get somebody, if you're interested in using an iPad and you haven't before, to help you kind of go over it in person. And if you're interested, we also do that here. You can just make an appointment with me. And my contact info will be at the end of this live stream. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at just a small sampling of all the different applications available on the iPad that will help children with all abilities. So, iPads are taken off the iTunes store every single day. And it's amazing because the last time I pulled the number for this, I need to go update it again. But as of January 2015, there were 1.4 million apps in the App Store. Now that is just insane. And I'm sure within the last couple of years, it's probably doubled that. Now, I mean, there are apps that will get taken off occasionally or updated, etc., but the rate of growth far exceeds that number, so. Alright. Okay, so the first set of applications we're going to go over have to do with phonics and letters, and I have all of these apps broken down into separate categories. There's all of these cost money, however, you can also find free versions of things, so don't be alarmed when you see everything costing an amount of money. It will be okay. The first batch of applications here, the first one is Endless Alphabet and Endless Reader, and I'm actually going to switch to show you what those are kind of like. So I don't know if the sound's going to come through or not, but we'll just see if it does. Some of these have been moved around here as people have used it, so let's find it. Another way to look for stuff is to open the search bar if you can. Where did that go? It used to be in words and letters down here. Well, that's okay. I'll try to look for that in a minute. Anyway, it uses fun characters to kind of teach you the alphabet, and what it does is it takes a word and it scatters the letters, and as the child drags the letters into the placeholders, it makes the sound that the letter makes, but it's kind of fun to do. And this is really helpful for like letter sound recognition and stuff like that. And then Endless Reader is similar. So it scatters the words in a sentence, and then the child will drag the words into the placeholders, and it will repeat what the word is as it does it. And then AlphaTots is a spelling app where you have to drag the letters into the correct places, so it's very similar to Endless Alphabet. And Reading a Rainbow is a cool app where you visit different islands, and they each contain different books that fall in line with the theme of the island, and you can see the text and it highlights it as you read along, and you can read independently or you can have it read to you. Let's see if I can pull that one up. I'm wondering if some of these got pulled off whenever I updated the iPad. Oops. Okay. Well, I promise that we'll look at some apps here in a second. Writing Wizard is a guided tracing app, which is really cool. And ABC tracing is similar to that. I'll go ahead and show you that. I didn't write it on the slide, but at least I can kind of show you what it's like. So ABC tracing, I believe this one is actually free. Yeah. I mean, you can, with most of these apps, you can usually get the paid version of them. But they do have some freemium, I guess you could say, until you want to at least try it before you buy it. So what you would do here, my finger is tracing this A on the screen. Whoops. There you go. Like that. And there you go. So that's basically how that works. Alright. Let me move back to the PowerPoint here. Write My Name is kind of like that. It teaches you to write your name, kind of like the same tracing feature. Excuse me. Speech with Milo is a speech app that builds basic sequencing skills by ordering 3 cards showing Milo and his friend Melvin performing a task, and then offers a reward. So, the cool thing about iPads is that the students are getting a, quote, reward when they complete tasks, and it's a digital reward, so they still feel like they're getting something even though it's not an actual physical thing. Alright, and then Little Writer is another tracing app, and it's pretty much exactly like the one that we just discussed. These are all just at different price points, and then kind of just depends which one you tend to like better. So, alright, let's go to our next batch. So, whoops. Endless 123 is by the same makers of Endless Alphabet. And same thing, you're dragging the numbers into the placeholders, and the child is hearing the name as they're being dragged. Elmo Loves 123s. That is another math app. It's full of games, activities, videos, which help teach your child about numbers and counting. Doodle Critter Math Shapes lets the child interact and play with basic shapes, such as triangle, rectangle, square, pentagon, etc. So various motivational activities inspire children to learn more about shapes. And I actually do have this. I found this really quickly, believe it or not.
Duck, duck, moose.
Okay. This is the beginning.
Moose Math, starring the Dust Bunnies by Duck Duck Moose. We are the Dust Bunnies, learning our 1, 2, 3s, building our town from what we found. So if you're around, then come on down. Choose an item for your city. Bye-bye. Tap on the door to enter the store.
Hi there, I'm Moose. Welcome to Moose Juice, where the drinks help you think and the juice is served by a moose.
Hi, my name is Yaya. I am always here to help. Drag ingredients from the fridge into the blender, and don't forget to follow the recipe. Let's make a sassy orange. Put 2 pieces of orange into the blender. That looks delicious.
But I'm not going to spend all the time on one app, so let's move on. Alright. We also have Doodle Critter Math. Moose Math. We just looked at Moose Math, and I talked about Doodle Critter. So Moose Math is what we just did, but Doodle Critter Math is also a similar app. Bugs and Numbers is really awesome. It's an app that provides an extensive collection of unique games dedicated to learning, and you practice a wide range of math skills in a non-traditional way, and also the artwork is just really pretty. Let me show you. So the good thing about this is very So I'm just using tabs to navigate through the apps. Usually I'll give you instructions if you're using other Okay. Let's see if we have any questions. Nope, we're good. Alright. If you do have any questions, feel free to stop me. I will keep checking over here. Alrighty, so another math app is Teacher Tilly, and it has over 40 puzzles. It has a lot of different difficulty levels, and you can also make your own puzzles from photographs, which is really good for shapes and space recognition. Little Digits, it displays number of characters by detecting how many fingers you put down, which is really cool. It kind of goes back to the 10-finger multi-touch display I was talking about, and that's a really cool way of them utilizing that. So they associate the number of the screen with the number of fingers they place down, which is pretty neat. And then Peg and Cat is an app from PBS Kids for children to practice math skills by learning and creating songs. Okay. So I know we've done a lot of different apps for elementary or younger age children for the most part, even though, of course, like I said, anybody can use these. But we'll be getting the life skills and stuff like that in a little bit. So these are just generic learning apps that we really like. Monkey Preschool Lunchbox is one that my son in particular has used a whole lot. There's 7 educational games it's geared toward preschooler age, but I could see that going higher. There's 7 different games that teach kids about colors, letters, counting, shapes, sizes, matching, and differences. Jumpstart Preschool Magic is Frankie the dog, and he's on an adventure, and it shows you learning with 15 different games. So there's 10 math, pre-reading, and critical thinking skills. So these are kind of just comprehensive, includes all different aspects of different categories. Beck and Bo is another one. It's pretty creative, and it engages your kids, helping them build their early vocabulary. And what happens is the kids are invited to build beautiful animated scenes, and they drag and drop objects, animals, and props into their proper place. So while they do that, they listen to their names and sounds, and so that's kind of reinforcing that for their learning. Then piece by piece, they bring to life colorful and fascinating scenes full of sounds, animations, and fun interactive activities. So that's pretty neat. In Leo's Pad app, you join a young Leonardo da Vinci and his friends on big adventures filled with exciting games. Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood is another cool one, and they explore different scenarios in life, so it might be good for teaching life skill scenarios. They go through bedtime, bath time, going to the doctor, and other situations in Daniel Tiger's house. And it can kind of relate to him going through the normal everyday parts of life, and also things, that they're not, like the doctor, they don't do every day, but it can kind of show them that's not scary and give them a little more insight. The Bugs and Bubbles is a collection of games addressing all sorts of learning opportunities. It's the same, the Bugs and Math one, it's the same art style. So it's really just good for children, and it doesn't, I would play it, it's just really pretty. Face Cards is a safe and easy to use resource for exploring feelings and the faces that go with them. So if you have a kiddo that is on the autistic spectrum, then the face cards kind of teach them emotions attached to the different types of faces. And this is also used by teachers, parents, and therapists with both children and adults across a range of abilities to kind of get them familiar and be able to recognize emotions. And then Show Me is a wonderful tool used to teach. What it does is it allows you to record drawing and writing on a screen as it records your voice. And let me see if I can pull that one. I know that we have it on here. The question is, where do we get moved to? Okay. I know it's on here, but I'm gonna have to redo this. I'll do it at another time, but the next time we do it, I'll be a little bit more prepared with the iPad. I didn't realize it switched stuff around on me. Alright, so let's go ahead and go to the next category. So these are other preschool fun and learning apps, but of course anybody can use these. So a lot of these help with fine motor skills, spatial reasoning, and other things like that. And some of them are just fun, so some of these could be used as a reward for your kiddo doing other things that they might not enjoy as much but are good for them on the iPad. So there's some art-themed apps like Cookie Doodle. You design and create cookies on that one. Finger paint is just exactly what the name of it is. It's coloring with your fingers. Build-A-Scares plays on Build-A-Bear, and it's a fun app where you get to build monsters. There's also a couple of music apps here. Disco Fingers is an easy app that uses simple taps on the screen to create funky musical beats. Virtuoso is another music app that's said to look like piano keys and uses taps on the screen to play it. I know we have Disco Fingers, so I'm going to play that for you. Sorry, I've had this horrible cough for a few weeks. Alright, let me see here. So here we go. Disco Fingers is right here. There are a couple other apps on here that we didn't have listed, but if you just go look in the App Store, you should be good. Alright, so it's just playing music right here. And depending on what you press here, you can create different tones and like Chipmunk. You have to upgrade to use all of them, but playing game you can use. So you just start. Here, and then you'll see, and you can make marks on there. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear, so it might not really be that helpful, but see how I'm going, see how I had those, like if I open this one, for instance. If I press the home button, and I double tap, you can see that this one is still open, and I swipe it up to close it. So there's that. Alright, let's go back here. So the iPad's also a great place to expose kids to different educational and fun videos. And I use a few different apps. But the two biggest ones that I use, I mean, you can see here, these two, PBS Video and YouTube Kids. YouTube, a couple years ago, I mean, it wasn't very long ago, finally released a free version of YouTube made specifically for children to filter out all the videos that might not be appropriate for them that you could find on regular YouTube. And it also offers a nice interface that has several different categories to help the child explore, learn, and discover. The other good video app is the PBS Kids app, and on that app, your child can watch on demand all of its favorite PBS shows like Cat in Hat, Dinosaur Train, Super Y, and more. Alright. I'm going to start zooming through these since it's already been a little while and I'm kind of taking up too much time with each of these. So there's also a lot of memory and finding apps available for free or very low cost in the App Store. These are a couple of the apps that we like. And if you're not unable to write down the ones you want to try, go ahead and with my contact info at the end of the live stream, you can let me know and I'll send you this PowerPoint or a list of the apps if you would like. Animatch, let's see. Animatch is a memory game with animal faces. Pick and Seek gives you really cool illustrated scenes with various items that when you touch them animate. And the App Store also has a bunch of interactive book apps from Disney to fairy tales and other stories to the integrated iBooks application. So it's like having a Kindle, but it's your iPad, so it can do more than a Kindle can. Okay, life skills. So first off, we're going to talk about the sensory right here, and I'm going to show you some sensory apps. Just because they're really cool. Alright, so fluid, let's do the Art of Glow first. So what's going to happen is I just made a swipe across the screen. Every time you swipe, it creates another color So this might be overstimulating for some kids, but I know my son loves this because you can create just different. It's like, that's a little much. You can take a picture of it, you can clear it if it's too much. So there's that, and then we also have this app called Fluid, which is extremely relaxing for me, actually. So we also have different ones like this one. This one's called Magma, I believe. So it's kind of like a lava lamp. Anyway, they just have a bunch of different, and they also have audio sensory apps on there as well. So there's just so many. I could never go through all of them during this training. So as far as life skills, there's some apps that can help you get your child following a routine with a picture schedule, and if they're older, then make and implement a grocery list, as well as educate them on things like clothing and wear depending on the weather. So that's what iDress for Weather is, and I really encourage you to go look at these. Most of them have free versions you can try before you buy, so. It's been a while since I checked the chat, so, alright, looks like we're still doing good. Now, these are applications that are specifically for special education and mostly for educators, so this, even if you're a parent, some of these might be worth asking the teacher if they use. Excuse me. There are curation apps, such as Autism app, that constantly updates revealing the latest apps along with the reviews geared toward not only people with autism, but also a variety of other disabilities. And you can also find apps to help with IEP meetings, behavior tracking, and creating your own social stories for use as well. Now we come into applications for communication. The amount of apps made for the iPad that help people speak who are nonverbal or have a hard time verbally communicating otherwise are innumerable. Here are some of our favorites. So Proloquo To Go is the most comprehensive, heavy-duty one that we've found, but it also comes with a pretty hefty price tag, as you can see here. It has thousands of words integrated, but it also gives you the ability to add your own words and pictures. So you also have several voices to choose from in the text-to-speech feature. So that's a nice thing to have as well. Tap to Talk and Verbally are very similar programs to Proloquo To Go. Dragon Dictation is the opposite. What you do is you talk to Dragon Dictation and then it writes down what you're saying. Choice Board is a visual digital tap to talk board, and it allows the person to make choices between things that you put on the screen. Similarly, the Yes and No app is a simple way for the person to choose yes or no when you're speaking to them. And then Kidogo is an app that replaces traditional integrated keyboard of the iPad, and it makes it easier for those who are just beginning to type or have visual impairments. So before we move on, I'm just going to show you real quick what Proloquo To Go looks like. You have it here. It takes a minute to load. Alright, so here we go. The interface is pretty simple. So the window at the top is where the sentence is being formed. Here, right here, where all these little tiles are will pop up words that the person who's using this frequently uses. And then there's some pre-made sentences and stuff like that here.
What do you want to do?
And when you press it up here with your finger, that's when
What do you want to do? What do you want to do?
loud. So you delete it by pushing this backspace button over here. And let's see. If you go to the home button down here in the middle of the bottom of the screen, it will show you all different ways of making sentences, and you really just search around here, but you always have your click, and then you also have a regular keyboard on here as well. And then all the different, there's so many different ways you can change it around just so that it is more useful to whomever is using it. Here I am closing all the apps again. Alright. So yeah, there's just a lot of different options for communication. And then lastly, if you didn't see an app here that fit any of the needs or categories that you or a child you work with needs, use the App Store search function. They've greatly improved the way that you can search for apps, and it's easier than ever to just type in the name of it or even just keywords of what you're looking for. And there's a really good chance you're going to find what you need. You can also sort your results by rating, and that's helpful too, to filter through all the fluff that might not be as helpful to you. And like I said, if you need help or suggestions, please just email me or call me and I'd be happy to help. If you're finding it difficult to afford an iPad, as some of our families are, it's an expensive investment, and it's sometimes not covered by, the sources of income we get to pay for our kids' stuff. So there are an array of places to look into on our resources listed on our website at nwacprc.org. And you can almost find, like I said before, a free or light version of an app. And then sometimes apps will be free or reduced for a limited time by the developer, so just kind of search sale alert on the App Store and you'll find plenty of choices usually. Okay, we're going to talk about accessibility here. The iPad has tons of accessibility features, and the Apple's added to the iPad that makes it a super awesome tool for so many people. So they all come with assistive features that have changed the learning landscape for students with special needs, and they allow every student to experience the fun and function of the iOS system. So even Apple has realized this, and they have different categories of accessibility features broken down on their website. So let's get into what they have to offer. Okay, guided access is my personal favorite because having a small child that uses the iPad frequently, sometimes I don't want him to go into other apps or close out of apps that I've designated him to use. So what this is kind of like a learning feature, and it can make the iOS device stay on one app by disabling the home button and even restrict touch input on certain areas of the screen. So taps and gestures that are wandering from where they're supposed to be won't distract them from learning. And so all you have to do to turn this on is triple click the home button, and it will bring up a screen for you to enable or disable guided access with your passcode. But first you have to make sure it's turned on in your settings on your iPad, and I believe you go under General and then go under Accessibility, and you should find guided access at the bottom. Alright. So also, Assistive Touch is a great feature that they've added. It can make an iOS device stay on one app. Oh, excuse me. It can make an iOS device not prohibit people that can't use the tactile buttons. So it's a physical motor accessible feature. And what it does is it adds a small white button to the screen that enables you to enact any action that you do with a gesture so you don't have to use the button for volume or home, etc. All you have to do is use this assistive touch button without having to go the traditional route. So this is optimal if the user has limited movement or dexterity capabilities. And again, the way you turn it on is you go through settings, general, accessibility, and you should be able to find assistive touch in there. VoiceOver is a great feature. It's geared toward low vision or vision impaired users. It enables the user to navigate the iPad without having to see the screen. You can swipe to navigate, double tap to select, or 3-finger swipe to scroll, and you can choose to turn the screen on or leave it off for this feature. It lets you practice and learn the gestures and what they do. So the iPad also supports Bluetooth Braille displays, so that's something for people that are blind or have impaired vision would find useful. Let's talk about Siri. So it's Siri or dictation if you'd rather look at it that way. It's a versatile tool that works with those with learning, vision, or hearing difficulties, and it's also useful if the user can't type. All that's needed to hold down the home button and or tap the microphone button. So to ask your question or give your command, Siri is integrated with VoiceOver as well, so that blind and low vision students can ask a question and hear the answer read out loud. Triple click home is just a feature that with 3 rapid presses of the home button can bring up a quick access menu to toggle various accessibility options that you can set in the settings menu beforehand. However, if you have guided access already activated, this won't work, so you just have to make sure to have one or the other. If you have guided access on, you won't be able to use this, but you can just turn guided access off. Speak selection is a vision feature, and it allows you to select text and have the text be read aloud with a digitized voice. So all you have to do is highlight and then press, you'll see this little pop-up come up and it says speak. And then we have white on black inverted colors. So this greatly increases the color contrast on the display by inverting the colors. There are many more accessibility features than the ones I've just covered. Some general ones include multiple orientations, enabling the iPad to be moved vertically or horizontally, and screen flipping for each side respectively. Predictive text anticipates what you're going to be typing before or while you're typing it, which allows for faster communication since you don't have to type the entire word. Bluetooth capability is very valuable. It allows a variety of switches, headphones, keyboards, and other devices to work in conjunction with the iPad. The tactile buttons are on the iPad to provide ease of access and turning the iPad on, changing volume, and more. They are also audible and visual alerts that you can set on your iPad that will work for a variety of reasons that can help a number of users in different ways. A few of the other vision-related features include a zoom, which is a screen magnifier, wireless braille displays, FaceTime to make signing and lip reading easier when you're communicating with someone, speak auto text, as well as larger and bolder text. Some features geared toward those with physical or motor disabilities include switch control, devices that can be attached via Bluetooth or other means to your iPad to enable tactile switch outside of your iPad to work and help controlling it. Home click speed can be adjusted to suit each individual person's needs. As we talked about before, there are various ways to make accessibility shortcuts available. An additional learning disability feature is Safari Reader, which presents the text, article, etc. only to you on a website, so all the extra stuff like ads, flashing titles, and things like that are omitted, allowing for easier reading. And then lastly, for those with hearing difficulties, iPads can work with some hearing aids, and there's an adjustable speaking rate option that can slow down how rapidly the iPad speaks to you. There are many options for subtitles and captioning, as well as options for various types of headphones, and there's also a setting to change the sound from stereo to mono audio. As I said before, I would love to have you come into the office, and if you have questions about any of these, I can show it to you. Restrictions is a big feature for many of us working with kids that are younger and don't understand where they can go and where they shouldn't during various times or ever. And of course, guided access helps with that we talked about earlier, but if you're just giving them free range, you still might want to set restrictions for some things. And you can't access unless you have the proper passcode. So you can find this in the settings app under general, and you can remove certain apps from their access by turning them on or off. You can also turn on or off location services, and you can restrict whomever's making account changes unless they have the passcode as well as the app purchases. You can also sort the type of content that the user is able to use by rating. You can turn the game center on and off as well as other settings. This is a really valuable feature, especially if the student is using this device at school where teachers might be leery of the student using the iPad in a way they shouldn't, or just simply for entertainment reasons. Alright, let me check the chat real quick. Thank you guys for coming. Yeah, I wanted to say, like, if you're going to come into the office, normally you're going to want to schedule an appointment just so we're sure to be expecting you and have everything ready for you. But also, we're open from 8 to 5 usually. Someone is here, and we just don't, sometimes we're out for meetings and things like that, so if you want to be sure to get me, you just want to call or email and make sure, but my contact info is at the end of this training. Okay, so now we're going to talk about adaptive gear. So this has revolutionized the iPad even further and made it more customizable, and it's made it even more accessible and enjoyable for everyone to use. I really like how Apple has been really great about this. Third-party companies making this stuff. So here's some iPad accessories that make the iPad a whole lot easier for men to use. First off is the bub cap. So this is something you stick over the home button to prevent the child from being able to touch it to get out of the app. So we're going way back to the first generation iPad with this, before there were options to disable certain things on the iPad. Fortunately, with newer iPads, this feature to disable the home button, as I talked about before, is there. So, gloves are an easy piece of adaptive gear that you can purchase anywhere really inexpensively, and if you cut the finger off one of the gloves, it makes it so that you don't have to isolate that one finger while you're using the iPad, and the gloves do it for you, so the iPad only registers one touch of the finger that's uncovered. Just make sure you don't get the gloves that you're able to use through the glove material to the screen, because they do make gloves like that now, but usually they specify if they work through the material. A stylus is a helpful way to do finer motor work. It works like a pencil, and it's an alternative to using your fingers. There are many mounts with a variety of ways they can attach to the body, the wheelchair, desk, or other places. And you also have the option of switch access, and this is a third-party device that connects to the iPad either by a headphone jack or the Bluetooth feature that enables you to use switches that you can press with your hands, feet, or other body parts without even having to use the iPad screen, which is nice. And then the voiceover controller is something that allowed the user of the first generation iPad to control it with voice only. However, now it's built into later generations of iPad, which is a nice feature to have. But if the first generation iPad's the only one you can come across, still use it. It'll still help. Then this is a sampling of some of the cases that are available. If you have an iPad, no matter what your ability, you'll most certainly want to have a case on it. Without a case, the technology itself is somewhat vulnerable, like I talked about in the very beginning. Things like a rugged case or survivor cases are built so that if the earth drop, nothing will happen to it. And then this life-proof case does that and also protects against water and extreme temperatures. Then there are cases like Big Grips or the eye adapter that are modeled for easier handling, and this is only a few of the many cases available for the iPad. And when you buy one, you want to make sure you get the right size, because we've had families accidentally get the mini when they had the regular and vice versa. You just have to pay attention if you're buying it online, which version you're getting. There's also some keyboard options for those using the iPad. The big Bluetooth keyboard is a regular size keyboard that connects to the keyboard via Bluetooth. It has letters very clearly labeled, and it's color-coded for easier visibility. There's also other options for keyboards, big and small, that connect to the iPad. If you're interested in having a separate keyboard, having a separate keyboard, there's also something known as a key guard, which is just a piece of plastic that lays over the iPad screen. The plastic feels like raised buttons over where the integrated keyboard for iPad pops up when it's ready to type. This helps distinguish one button from another while still using the keyboard already included in the iPad. Then there's a case called the Connect that has an amplifying built-in speaker system that allows for more volume outside what the iPad normally has. And the iPad is also able to connect to a variety of headphones that connect again by the Bluetooth function, as well as the headphone jack that make it easier for some to hear. Sorry about that. Here's that slide. That's what I'm talking about. Alright, so we're getting close to the end here. We want to talk about incorporating iPads into the IEP. So sometimes it's hard to know where to start when thinking about your child using this device at school. So let's discuss incorporating iPads into the IEP. The first thing that you need to think about is, how is it better? So I personally am not advocating for a specific brand, even though this training is for the iPad. The usefulness of a tablet can apply across the board. You can do a lot of the same things that you do with iPad with different tablets. When we're talking about how is it better than other assistive technology like the Dynavox, which also verbalizes communication, it's important to look at the price points, the size, and the shape, and choose what is easiest for your child to hold and handle or mount if necessary. iPad tends to be cheaper than other technology of this caliber, officially known as assistive devices or augmentative and alternative communication devices. This device in particular has a bunch of apps outside of what you can do with something like a Dynavox, including apps concerning special education, communication, life skills, etc., and all of the stuff we talked about before. So all of those are on one device, whereas an AAC device like Dynavox does one thing. The iPad's also seen as something that's more socially acceptable than other devices that children or young adults might not know about. And lastly, the iPad is very lightweight, so it's not bulky and can be mounted or positioned in a multitude of ways that we've already gone over in the adaptive gear section. So mobile technology is a hot topic, and one of the questions that's popping up all over the place with both parents and educators is how to get an iPod or iPad written into the IEP. The process is the same for this as it is for other assistive technology. So the IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act, hopefully you know about this already, as it's very important to your child. And it's this federal special education law that addresses services for children with disabilities that was set into law in 1975. And the IDEA requires that states provide a free appropriate public education, also known as FAPE, including related services for children with disabilities. The law requires schools to provide necessary assistive technology devices and services to help children with disabilities receive an appropriate education. So to that end, every child with a disability must be considered for assistive technology. So the word consideration isn't defined by law, so you can argue in favor of your child whether they have been rightfully considered or not. And then also there's a brief process during each annual IEP or IFSP meeting in which you can bring up assistive technology and address the needs that your child has. There are some questions you might ask yourself to be prepared for IEP meeting, as well as some other things to do to assure that when you do meet, you've already exhausted other options. So some of the things you need to ask yourself before the meeting are, how does the iPod or iPad meet the need over any other technology? What other technologies have you already tried? What is or isn't working and why? Is it a need or is it just a nice thing to have? Do you have any data or evidence that supports it? Is it expected that the student won't be able to make reasonable progress toward educational goals without this assistive technology and service? If yes, describe what a useful system of supports, devices, and services for the student would be like if there were such a system of tools. Here's some more questions. What other technologies have been tried? How does the iPod or iPad meet the need over any other AT? Brainstorm specific tools that could be included in a system that addresses students' needs. Select the most promising tools for trials in the natural environment, such as their school. Plan the specifics of the trial, expected changes, how the tools will be used, cues, etc., and collect data on the effectiveness of the iPad. You're just going to have to determine how to do this based on how your child would be using it and what they're using now. And just kind of keep track of that over a length of time to try to prove your point. And the reason why you want to think about all of these questions before you go into the meeting is because if you already have, you're going to show everyone else in the IEP team that you've already done your research, you've already thought about all these things, and you're ready to move forward. Alright, so this is the continuum of assistive technology. So on one end, there are no-tech solutions, and on the other end, there are high-tech devices. So too often when we make technology decisions, there's a tendency to start at the upper end of the technology continuum, when in fact it's better to start at the lower point. With this, you end up with less expensive and less complicated options. So examples of light or low tech would be like a pencil gripped, pencil gripped, I keep saying grip, slant board, and a handheld magnifier. And a medium tech would probably be like a switch operated toy, a battery operated communication device, or something like that. And then high tech is where we get into the computer software, power wheelchair, computer based AAC, and environmental control system. So those are just some things for you to think about. And if you've done all of the research and preparation, you're more likely to be able to get that into the IEP. And of course, we're always here to help if you need assistance with that. So to close this out, I have this quote here, and it's from an IBM training manual from 1991. And oh my goodness, if we could see from 1991 till now how far we've come. But this still reigns true. It says, for people without disabilities, technology makes things easier. For people with disabilities, technology makes things possible. And that's true. There have been so many life-changing ways that this device has helped people, and we just can't count the number of times it's made the difference in a child's life, or an adult for that matter. Alright, here's the last page. I see that we don't have any other things in the live chat. I'll give you about a minute or so before I close out the live stream. What I'm going to do, actually, is I'm going to link to an evaluation that I would love you to fill out. What it does is it helps we are funded by a grant through the Office of Special Ed, and so having the data on what you thought about our training really helps tell the people that are funding us how we're doing. So I'm gonna paste it right here in the chat, and now you can go to that form and you can let us know how we did or how I did during this training. Hopefully we're going to be having more live streams coming up here. And then if you have questions or comments, like I said, you can reach us through email, phone. All of our social medias are listed here. We're NWA CPRC on most social media platforms. And aside from this training, we also curate information from other people putting on trainings and events in this Northwest Arkansas area, and we're here to help, so there's no question too big or too small that we won't try to help you with. And also, we want to thank OSEP, the Office of Special Education, that made this training possible, and the Office of Special Education is just so necessary, and we just really appreciate it. So if there's no other questions here, then I guess I'm going to go ahead and close out the live stream, but I appreciate you guys for sticking around, and until next time, take care.